Hello, men and women who are going to share this interview with men. As you know, my name is Amy Bondar. I'm a nutritional consultant and certified eating psychology coach, and I'm so excited to share this conversation with you today. So much of my work is focused around women, but today, and because we are in November, and we're going to be promoting Movember, which is really important for men to understand the importance of preventing prostate cancer, I thought what a great opportunity to sit down with a friend of mine, Dave Hornstein, who is a CEO and president of AQuality Plumbing. And he's going to be asking me some questions that all men want to know. And I'm super excited about this opportunity just because I think so much of the conversation with nutrition is focused on women. And men have so many questions, so many uncertainties. And so to be able to have a man ask and direct these questions, I think is just really vitally important for all of you who are listening. So without further ado, I introduce Dave Hornstein.
Hi, thanks, Amy. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a really cool opportunity to put myself in a position where I've been working for years on self-development and who I am and how that works, both from mindset and total body health, pretty much all of that. So to be in a situation where I can actually ask questions that I feel a lot of men, probably ranging from their late teens all the way through to their senior years, have always either been thinking about these questions or starting to think about these questions. And as men, we probably fight this stigma where it's not okay to ask about certain things, and we just need to deal with it. So to be that vulnerable person today who's able to ask questions that a lot of us may not feel comfortable asking, I think will give people a comfortable environment to hear answers to things that they're going to be curious about, and hopefully be able to put into action. It should be really fun. We've got some cool questions planned for you.
Great. Very excited. Yeah, and I think you're so right, Dave. So many men have the same questions or the same concerns, the same health concerns, body image concerns, etc. And it really is a collective issue, but it's often a silent struggle for people. And so I think bringing the conversation to the light today is such an important thing. So glad that you're going to guide these questions.
Yeah, hopefully they track in for lots of different people of different ages. I think it'll be insightful for women too to get an idea into probably what a man's thinking. Maybe we're not as confident as we appear in a lot of our aspects, and I think it should be fun. And I think for the guys out there that are starting to watch, stick around because the questions are going to hit you pretty good. I think Amy's answer is going to be on point, and you're going to get a lot of different feedback than just whether you went to go sit down with just a dietitian or a nutritionist or even your doctor. I think Amy's perspective and her background on being able to go into the psychology of how we're made up and how our psychology and eating go together, that background I think is going to come out a lot today in the questions, which is going to give you some pretty cool insights.
Great, thanks. I'm ready.
All right, so the first question we put together here, we put together for you, is we're going to talk about the dad bod, which has become quite popular since, probably the last year or two. It's come up quite a bit on what the dad bod looks like. And there's thoughts that it's actually an ideal look for men. There's actually lots of thoughts out there that there's lots of women who prefer the dad bod look over the guy who's stripped down and ripped and, like all muscles everywhere and no fat whatsoever. So my curiosity was, are there health risks to actually maintain the dad bod, even if certain women are finding that more attractive? And what should we know about the risks and rewards to having that dad bod?
All right. First, Dave, why don't you just describe the dad bod to me? Because as a woman, this is the first time I've heard the term dad bod.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
Well, the dad bod, I should have brought up an image. I almost tried to send an image. Look, there's some funny ones you can definitely search online to find, but definitely a higher fat content for sure. There can be some muscle and strength and still some power to it. Definitely a gut tends to be like that bigger stomach is definitely a big part of it. Probably larger sort of tire area around the back and hips is pretty much the dad bod, I think.
Got it.
The way it looks. Yeah, it's kind of the opposite to the shredded look. They definitely I think a lot of men, it feels like if we look like that, we've let ourselves go in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same point, there's lots of cultures too who would look at that of, well, like, you're doing really well, you're really wealthy, you can eat whatever you want when you want, and your body shows your wealth in that sense. So I think there's a lot of combos as to what it is. But yeah, definitely, as far as that magazine stereotypical look of what a male body can and should look like, it doesn't meet that for sure.
Sure, it's not the reality for most men, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so you
Well,
listen, we often
it's easier to achieve, I think, a dad bod than the magazine one.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, listen, you got to spend hours in the gym and have a very, very strict, restricted diet in order to achieve that shred body. But in terms of the dad bod, listen, it's very common to see men, especially as they age. So we're talking once we're getting into your 40s and beyond, it's really important to understand that men's hormones are changing, right? So really when we're late teens and early 20s, your testosterone is really high. It's robust, it's boosting. And so what happens is that really once you get into your mid 30s, that testosterone starts to drop. And then when you even get into your early 40s, your testosterone is about 13 to 20% less than what it was when you were in your 20s. And then further on, as you even get into your 60s, the number is once you're in your 60s, your testosterone is 60% lower than what it was when you were in your 20s. And why that's important is that when your testosterone is dropping, that absolutely impacts the body. It actually really increases your body fat when testosterone drops. It actually lowers your muscle mass. And it definitely can also contribute to some other health challenges, like low testosterone can really deregulate your insulin levels, which can ultimately impact your other hormones. It can increase your estrogen. So as a man, we want more testosterone and less estrogen. But what happens is that tips. And when you have elevated insulin because of eating poorly, excess alcohol, excess carbohydrates, etc., your estrogen rises and your body fat will be increased. And so that's one of the reasons why we see that beer belly, the Buddha belly, the salad bowl belly that we often hear about, or the spare tire, as you mentioned, Dave, and even just like the that a lot of men even will develop man boobs, so to speak. And those are all signs that testosterone is dropping and that imbalanced hormone piece is starting to show up. We see it so often in women, right? Women really struggle with their hormones, which contributes to changing body. But the truth is, it's the same for men. Men often go through andropause, right? It's male menopause, and we don't often talk about that and the implication it has. But the dad bod, it's that certainly an easier body to achieve. But in terms of long-term health, we want to ask is, what are you eating? Is that beneficial or not? And is that dad bod difficult to get out of because of the testosterone piece?
And is it unhealthy to live in that state, or as our testosterone is dropping naturally? Is that a normal course of our lifetime where we don't need to worry about it? Or is it something where do we need to ask you now, how do we boost our testosterone to avoid this? And is that an important thing to watch for?
It's a really important thing to watch for, because at the root of so many men's health challenges, especially as you age, it's low testosterone. So everything from cholesterol issues, triglyceride issues, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, weight gain, prostate issues, right? Inflammation, low libido, erectile dysfunction. These are like, men have a lot of things to think about, right? And often what happens
Yeah.
is you do. And at the root of that all is testosterone. So absolutely, Dave, it matters and it makes a difference. And so knowing how to keep your testosterone levels elevated and supported so that they're not continually dropping and being replaced with excess estrogen, super important. And we can control that so often with the power of our food, with our exercise, as well as supplementation.
That's awesome. So I'm going to go kind of out of order here too, because it seems like we're on the testosterone right now for sure. So what would be I guess the first question, is there a food that men can look to that's going to naturally boost or maintain their testosterone level that they can look to be eating?
For
Whether
sure.
it's daily or weekly, or how would that work?
So
I'm
one of
hoping it exists.
it absolutely does. There's so much we can do with the power of food, and the slightest changes and adjustments, Dave, make the most tremendous difference, not only into how you feel, but to what's happening within our biochemistry. So we use food therapeutically to change the health of the cells, to help us produce hormones. So one of the most important foods that men really, really need to focus on is protein, and it's protein at every meal. Protein helps to build lean muscle mass. Protein helps to make testosterone. And so there's a variety of different proteins to focus on, but every meal, a man must have a protein source in there. And so one of some of those sources may include, if you're using protein powders, a whey isolate is a really, really highly absorbable lean muscle testosterone boosting protein. So in a smoothie, that would be great, or collagen peptides. Really important proteins for men are grass-fed beef, lamb, as well as bison. These three red meats are very high in zinc, and zinc is essential to make testosterone. And so we really want to get enough zinc-rich foods, which can also exist in chicken, can also exist in legumes if you're using more plant-based protein. So we can go into things like chickpeas and lentils. They're higher in zinc. And nuts and seeds are another great protein as well as essential fat and high zinc food source. So some of the best zinc and protein rich nuts and seeds are hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, almonds and cashews, as well as their natural nut butters. So those are really, really great to put into the diet. But generally using good quality sources of protein at every meal is probably really important to get that testosterone boosted, to ensure that the lean muscle mass is being produced to help burn body fat, and also to help men stay satisfied and satiated throughout the day, so your blood sugars are staying stable, which is also really important to preventing excess body fat.
That's cool. I'm already learning tons.
Good.
That's amazing.
Good. I just want to mention too, Dave, just a few more zinc-rich foods for men that are really important, because I just want to mention a few vegetables, like spinach is really high in zinc, mushrooms are high in zinc. So those two are some additionals. Avocados have a little bit of zinc as well. So, you know, building your diet around those repertoires of food, oysters, seafood, wild caught fish. So tons of protein choices that that we can choose from, but there are also some other plant-based and veggies and things like that to focus on.
Cool. That's awesome. So on that note too, with how we choose to eat, a lot of the stuff that I've read in the last couple of years, it seems to be leading towards, it's not always necessarily what we're eating as men, but sometimes when we're eating it. So my next question is more to do like on timing of foods. I think intermittent fasting is something that men have been watching and listening to. If you're definitely curious on quick ways and quick solutions on how to lose weight and how to build muscle, intermittent fasting comes up as probably the number one result if you're Google searching that kind of stuff. So again, if we're talking about benefits and risks associated with, time frames of one, is it safe to be intermittent fasting? Are there certain steps you want to go through to figure out what type of length in intermittent fasting is going to be best for your body type and the state you're currently starting at? And how long would you want to stay intermittent fasting if it even has a positive side to it? Is it something that you maintain now for the rest of your life, or is it something that once you get to a certain point, you'd want to maybe cut back and not do 7 days a week, but you're only doing it twice a week? So I think those are questions that are hard to find answers to, that a lot of men are going to be curious about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, intermittent fasting, that term has been used a lot, as you said, in the last few years. But the truth is that intermittent fasting has been around for centuries, and many different religions have actually used intermittent fasting and just fasting or cyclical eating for different purposes or to achieve different results, right? So more so though in mainstream nutrition, we want to understand that there's many different kinds of fasting. The one that is most widely talked about right now and used mostly is the intermittent fasting, or what we call cyclical fasting. And that one is that 16-8 rule, where you're fasting for 16 hours and you are eating within a window of 8. And so basically, first of all, why is intermittent fasting helpful? It can be helpful for some body types when you are trying to lose weight weight. You're trying to balance your insulin. There's been a lot of research studies around intermittent fasting for those who have blood sugar issues, that when you're fasting in that 16-8 window, it drastically helped lower blood sugars, but it regulated people's blood sugars. So that was really important. So people do it for longevity. They do it to help turn down inflammation. They do it to give their digestive systems and elimination pathways a little bit of a break, to do internal housekeeping. And also, again, it has been shown to be helpful for weight loss and increase of muscle mass. So if you're going to do intermittent fasting in the 16-8 rule, it's very helpful to try to do that basically by tracking your time at the end of the day. So the one that I really recommend is sort of stop eating at 7 to 8 p.m. at night, and then not eating again until 16 hours later. Okay, so what basically you're missing out on is you're not eating late at night, you're not doing your late night snacking, and you're not starting your day first thing in the morning when you wake up with a breakfast. So you're sort of going, 7 p.m. till, what is it, like 10, 11 a.m. or a little bit later than that. So what happens though, Dave, is that a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting incorrectly. And this is where there are some drawbacks to doing it. So what I see in my practice a lot, or when people are sort of talking about their fasting and how long they can go fasting, is a lot of people are fueling on coffee throughout the morning to suppress their appetite. Drinking coffee is not fasting. Fasting is nothing other than water. And so if you are fueling your mornings on 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day, or frankly, even 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day, you are not helping your blood sugars, which is the primary purpose for why we want to fast. Because every time you bring in that caffeine, even if it's a green tea, you bring in the caffeine, you're spiking your insulin, you're spiking your cortisol. Those are both fat storing hormones. So they're not helping with the weight loss, right? So the idea is you wake up, you brush your teeth, you get the bacteria off your tongue, and you drink your water to help flush your liver. And it takes a man 2 liters of water to actually flush the liver. And most men are not drinking that much water at all. And also the quality of our water is really important, which I just did another interview on and wrote an article about. So if you go to my website, amybondar.com, under blogs, read Change Your Water, Change Your Life, and listen to that interview. But we want to be drinking alkaline water, especially first thing in the morning and throughout the day, to create an alkaline environment to help us detox. And then when you begin your first meal, then you're going to start and have some protein, etc. We could talk about meal suggestions after if you'd like. But the point is that a lot of people are not properly fasting. And so they're suppressing their appetite, thinking because they're drinking all that coffee, which suppresses the appetite, it gives them that false sense of energy. But then what happens is they're overeating then at the end of the day and craving at the end of the day because they didn't quite set their fasting cycle up properly. So you really want to make sure you're getting your timeline in there properly. And then just, there's other ways of fasting. Like you said, some people will do like the intermittent fasting. Some people will eat one day and then fast the next day. I honestly think it's important to just find your rhythm and stick with the rhythm, because your body likes to be rhythmic. It likes to be in balance. So if you keep changing your cycles throughout the week, it kind of stresses the body out, and it doesn't know what to expect and what's coming and what's not coming, which also causes storage of body fat. So find a rhythm that works for you. Our young listeners, when you're in your 20s and whatnot, I don't think intermittent fasting is essential. I don't think it's important. You typically have fast metabolism. So people who are eating their 3 main meals a day, mid-morning, mid-afternoon snack, it helps. Even into the 30s, it's usually okay. But Dave, honestly, for men, as they hit their mid-40s, metabolic body slows down. And so mid-40s and beyond, it's really helpful to try the intermittent fasting. And that timing of our day, eating our main meal at the mid part of our day, that's when our metabolic power and our digestive power are at its strength. So no matter what kind of fasting or not fasting that you're choosing, just knowing the timing of your meal to eat that largest meal midday works really well for your metabolic body, followed by a good little afternoon snack and a lighter dinner. But most often men are overeating at night and eating most of their calories at night when metabolic bodies slow down.
That's cool. That's a ton of amazing information. You just can't, I know from looking myself, you can't find some of those details from just trying to figure out what's going to work for you. So the ability to go and even custom this further with you afterward is, going to be amazing for a lot of people to be able to follow up for. Because I actually, for the years that I've known about intermittent fasting, they all will tell you that tea, coffee, and water are all not breaking your fast. But if you add a dairy product or a cream or anything like that into your coffee or your tea, you've ended your fast. So that they've kind of got like really easy to find, but to actually know that coffee's hindering the process of what you're trying to do is totally different, because on most of the websites that you'll find stuff on, it's actually telling you coffee just black on its own is a great thing to do because it's going to increase your metabolism, and it's going to put you into a more catatonic state, I think they say, or something like that, by drinking the coffee with all the caffeine. And you clearly debunked that, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just understanding what coffee does. And I'm not saying coffee's bad, but it does elevate insulin and it does elevate cortisol, which is why people are putting the fats in the coffee to stabilize that, right? And you're right, that does break the fast. But no, I mean, the idea is neutrality. That's what we want. We don't want anything spiking us. We want to keep it stable, right?
Love that. I mean, everything's seeking balance, right? So I'm getting that tone really early in this conversation. So anyone who drinks coffee knows that coffee, the only thing it's balancing is if you're on an ultimate low trying to bring you up. It's not actually a balancer, right? So, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, next question, Amy. Can we eat anything we want? Meaning that if we're trying to stay in a caloric deficit, which I think is another big term that's going on right now, is that it doesn't actually matter what we eat. We can eat bacon. We can eat like the fattiest of foods that we know aren't good for us. Go out and have some fries that are deep fried. And we can eat all these foods and it's not a problem at all, as long as we keep, for men anyway, as long as we keep ourselves in a caloric deficit. So my knowledge of having a calorie deficit would just mean that somehow we're supposed to go out, which I've never done, but if we go out and we figure out for us, how many calories per day should I be eating based on my age and my fitness levels or my weight and height? I'm not sure how they even figure that out, but if we do that, are we trying to stay 500 calories below that? Are we supposed to just barely stay below that to make sure we're staying balanced? Or is that even something that's safe to do? If our body's telling us that, I should be eating 2,000 calories a day, is it really good for me to tell my body, yeah, you should, but in order for me to look a certain way, I'm going to only give you 1,500? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the truth is, Dave, I don't like working with numbers and counting calories and things like that. I think about the quality of the food, and absolutely everything we put into our body, it matters and it makes a difference. And I think we have to think about longevity for men's health, right? So what I think I'm sensing, and what conversation may be for a lot of men, is eating for weight loss and to get that chiseled body, but it's about eating for wellness. Right. And so, filling your however calorie deficit or how much calories you're allotting yourself for the day with like fried foods and chips and fatty foods and whatever you want to eat, does that matter? It absolutely matters. Now, listen, if you have a fast metabolism and your testosterone is really strong, you can likely burn that, unhealthy food, and it doesn't necessarily show on your body, but it's showing on your body internally. It's making a difference to the health of your cells. So I always share this concept, but everything in the universe has vibration, has energy. Our cells have vibration. Food has a vibration. I work with plant medicine. Essential oils have vibration. There's a vibration in nature. And your cells, we resonate with the level of the energy of the food in which we eat. So the more live, whole, magnetic, colorful, antioxidant rich our food is, the more our cells vibrate. And when we vibrate like that internally, we emit that energy. So sure, you may be able to go and eat whatever you want without making your waistline change as a man, which does eventually change, by the way. That's why you get the dad bod over time, Dave. But what happens internally is that if your cells are not receiving that vital energy right at the get-go, your cells are essential to feed the blood, the tissues, the organs, the hormones. Every system on your body is dependent on what the cells are being fed. And so if you're eating a high inflammatory, high sugar, high alcohol rich diet, your cellular inflammation is going to be really high. And that cellular inflammation you may not feel. That's why we call it silent inflammation. But over time, that's the precursor to rapid aging and chronic disease. So this is why you see men, once they're ready to retire, they've had all these dreams to travel or do whatever they want to do. Once they retire, this is when men are getting sick. And this is when men have heart disease and prostate cancer and other health crises, because they haven't taken care of their health and eaten vibrant whole food leading up to this later stage in life. And so what you eat absolutely matters. So we want to think not short term, what am I going to eat to impact my calories and my weight today and this week and this month? It's what am I going to eat to impact the longevity and my vitality and my stamina as I get older and into my later golden years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very cool. And I love how you connected with the vibrational stuff. I know, like, for men in general, that stuff gets pretty out there. And to bring that in, I think I might be able to help. Maybe I can't. But for the vibrational stuff for guys out there, we're talking about how even as simple as you go and you meet someone in your day and you get this vibe on if you're going to like that person in the first few seconds, that first impression. That's all based on energy. And in dog training that I do, it's the same thing. I'm working on energy between what the dog is doing and what I'm doing and what other people are doing and how that impacts the flow of every situation. And vibrations, whether you want to believe or not, they are a part of how we're functioning. I think I've spoken to Amy before this again. I think Amy will say it's a word. It's out west there. She's got a place where she walks in the forest where the energy vibes just change a little bit for her. And I have the same thing in Fish Creek, or if I go out to a lake, that's my number one. If I can find a lake, just that calmness of being by the water, you can feel an energy shift. I think that's really important for guys to really know that that's okay and that you can be in tune with that stuff. It's really, really important.
Yeah, and Dave, I think one of the things that's often missed with food is that we're not often tapping into how our food makes us feel and then what kind of energy we're putting out there. So many men have a very high value on business, on their vocation, on financial growth and success. And even when you're meeting with somebody, right? Like as you said, when you meet with somebody, you're feeling that energy. Well, when you're doing business deals, when you're trying to make money, when you're trying to do the best or be the best as a leader or CEO or manager, whatever you're doing in your work, in your business, you want to think about what kind of energy am I putting out to the world? And that 100% is based on the food quality that you are eating. So sure, you can go out for lunch and eat bacon and fried food and have a burger and French fries or whatever that is. You may be able to burn that metabolically, right? However, how are you feeling in the office within an hour of that? Are you dropping down? Are you crashing? Are you tired? Are you needing some sugar and coffee to pick you up? Is your skin tone gray? Are you looking really sort of haggard and tired when you're talking to a client? All of that matters. And I
And
think,
is that directly from the food we've eaten? Because there's a lot of pressure for men in those situations where, yeah, let's go sign this deal and get this done. Let's go have some beer and wings.
yeah,
There's this pressure that we have to be able to drink a lot. We have to be able to eat the fried foods. And it sounds so weird, but when I was listening to you say that, I'm just like, if I'm thinking about having those meetings, like, oh, let's just get wings around the table, or maybe in COVID land now, we've got to get our own order.
yeah,
I don't know, but it is interesting how we feel that pressure that, like, in order to prove our manliness, we need to show that we can actually eat that stuff and still fully function.
yeah.
There's no weakness. It doesn't matter what we do to ourselves, we're going to be okay.
For sure, because it's not so manly to order a salad
Yeah,
and like a
yeah,
sparkling water at your lunch meeting, right?
yeah. That's
Yeah,
hard. Like, if you're gonna, like, there is a confidence side that I've learned over the years now. While someone else gets a beer, for me, just order a soda water, or even I'm just good with water. I'm not drinking right now, and okay to order something that doesn't have bread because I no longer eat wheat as part of my diet. Some people would, like, you used to fear that. Like, I used to be worried, like, if I can't eat that bun and that burger or whatever it is, they're going to instantly challenge my manliness. So how do we attack that in a positive way in our minds that it's okay?
Yeah, listen, I think that you have to link your health value to your work value. So if work is really important to you, and getting a financial deal and financial growth is really important to you, you link, how will eating this meal that's going to make me feel better, more energetic, less tired, more mentally sharp and focused, how will ordering the foods that will make me feel that way support my business growth? You don't worry so much about the chatter and what people are going to be thinking about you. You're going in there and you want to own your power, and you do that by, you maybe order the entree that's got like a lean quality protein with some veggies on the side, and like that's going to be a great meal that's going to make you feel really great, and you're going to perform so much better than if you ate the wings and beer. And again, we talk about these silent issues, Dave. So many men will go and eat that with those wings and have a beer, and then they're going to have heartburn all afternoon, or they're going to have indigestion, or they're going to be gassy and belching, and it's like the office door is going to close because you don't want to go in there, right? I don't mean to be rude, but that's really what happens for men. So it's these silent struggles, but really if they would have just ordered differently and maybe matched the vibration of what you would choose to order, vibration would be totally different later in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I think it shows a lot of character for men. Like that mindset, both in your business and with what you're eating is clearly going to be parallel. So if we've been able to make that shift for what's best in our business, that's a great analogy. Like start being able to apply that to the foods we're choosing, and knowing that we have the power to shift that's amazing.
It's huge. This is, how will eating these higher quality foods support my highest values in my business and in my financial success? Link it always there, and then you have a purpose to choose wisely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one. Here's a fun one. So wondering how food actually impacts men differently than women. I think every man has been in a situation where the woman in their life has come up to them and almost like made us feel bad that we're able to go ahead and eat whatever you want, but I can't even have this one nut or whatever it is because, I could get fat from eating this. Where is the balance on, what the comparison of to women and how they lose weight versus, or how they stay fit and healthy? I think it's more important that it's not even about losing weight. It's just being healthy. I'm getting that message really clearly from you today, that the
Yeah.
body image isn't the most important part. This is about actual overall health within. So how can we achieve that? Like, what are the differences so that maybe men can better understand women they live with, or have lived with, and also for men to understand that as well?
Yeah. So here's the thing that we need to talk about. It comes back to hormones again, and the truth is, the reason why men typically can lose weight easier is because they just have higher testosterone. Women naturally don't produce as much testosterone as men, and women typically have more estrogen and progesterone imbalances, which can definitely contribute to their challenges with weight issues. Women also tend to have more issues with thyroid, and adrenal fatigue issues, which can all contribute to, unwanted weight for women, or just that feeling that, well, my husband can eat anything and I can barely have anything and I still gain weight or can't lose it. So I think, first of all, for men, it's just understanding, and even just having that conversation with your woman about just the body being built differently, is that testosterone plays a huge role. But for both men and women, it's really important to understand how to keep hormones stable. And balancing blood sugars is probably one of the most important things that both men and women can do to really help each other. So what that means is eating together lean protein, lots of good quality vegetables, good essential fats. But when the man can just come and have, like, he wants the meat, the potatoes, or the pasta, or the rice, or the bread with the meal, and a little bit of vegetable, just know that for a woman, all of those extra carbohydrates at the end of her day are not ideal for her waistline, but they're actually not really that ideal for the men's waistline either, right? And that really impacts insulin, type 2 diabetes, elevated triglycerides, cholesterol, etc. All has to do with that insulin and excessive carbohydrate. So it's just about understanding, and figuring out why is what we're eating, or how is what we're eating impacting our hormones. But usually men have it a little easier, especially if their testosterone is where it should be, is that they're able to lose it quicker than women, or easier than women. And it really just comes down to testosterone and estrogen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. That was awesome. Let's see if we can get a top food here for the guys. if men are going to introduce one new food into their diet, what would be the number one that you would introduce? And then after that, sorry if someone keeps ringing the doorbell, so the dogs are going crazy. And also one that we should avoid. Like, does that even exist? Is there like a food that every man should be somehow getting into them every day, and what we should absolutely never?
All right. Well, I'll give you one food that is very helpful for men. Listen, we're all built differently, so there's not one powerful food that's going to like be the game changer. But if you want one really cool one that you can add in, and in fact, this can also help your partners as well. Maca. Maca, M-A-C-A, is a superfood, and it's actually it's a root. It's a Peruvian root, and why it's so helpful is that it really helps hormonal balance, but specifically for men, it really helps to boost testosterone, and it enhances stamina, vigor, and endurance. So having 1 tablespoon, 1 to 2 tablespoons in your smoothie every day, or if you're choosing coffee, you can even put a tablespoon into your coffee, and that is a superfood that can really, really elevate a man's performance in all
I guess if they
areas.
had, if they could invent maca chips, I'd be really happy.
Well, they got maca chocolate, so you can do like chocolate with some maca in there. But and again, for women, it's very helpful for men. So what maca is, it's also something called an adaptogen. So it adapts to your own body's needs, and so it not only helps you handle stress better, which is really important. It helps you be more resilient. But for men and women, so when a woman is using it, it actually helps to balance her estrogen and progesterone, and help her thyroid. And for men, it really helps support testosterone. So it really sort of adapts to what the body is needing. So it's a really easy food to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to add one more family in here, but let's talk about just vegetables, okay? There's a family of vegetables for men and women that are really important, and these are our cruciferous vegetables, okay? So this is our broccoli sprouts, cauliflower, kale, Swiss chard, Brussels sprouts, watercress, radish. So this family of vegetables is so important for men because it helps to, first of all, support liver detoxification, which helps to clear those bad estrogens out that men don't want to have. We don't want to have too much excess estrogen for a man. But it also, the ingredients in, or the substances that are in these cruciferous vegetables, help to prevent prostate cancer. So for a man, those ones are really important. So 1 to 2 of these a day is so important. And if you can't get those, then what you want to get is a supplement called indole 3-carbinol, I3C, which is the compound that's in the cruciferous that's protective for prostate cancer. So those would be like the maca and cruciferous, really, really important for men. And the one food that a man should highly think about cutting back or reducing or eliminating completely is actually alcohol. So yeah, that's a tough one. It's a tough one, but the truth is alcohol is one of the main destroyers of testosterone. And so
And
really,
regardless of type, whether it's wine or scotch, or it doesn't matter.
it doesn't really matter because, and listen, the dose makes the poison. So, but if you're having a drink every night, or you're drinking 6 beers on the weekend, like 1 or 2 a week is okay, unless you really are having an insulin issue or weight loss issue. But really what happens is that our alcohol just converts to glucose, and glucose again not only turns into body fat, but it does elevate that insulin, it does elevate that estrogen. So if that dad bod's becoming an issue, or if that beer belly is really showing up, and that you're drinking regular consumption of alcohol, that is one area you may want to look at as a man.
Yeah,
Tough one. I think everyone just turned off the recording now.
Yeah, probably. There must be a reason why it's called a beer belly, right? And I think
Right.
Amy just nailed that for everyone to know. And it sounds like there's actually, like, regardless of asking the question, whether it's for men or women, it sounded like, especially on the things to eat, like there is actually we're just human beings, right? So whether female or male, it sounds really important that these things are part of our diet.
100%. This is the same. I just did a session last month for women on breast health and hormonal health. And so many of the same things that I'm talking about, especially with like the adaptogens and using cruciferous vegetables and how to balance estrogen and make sure we don't have an excess of estrogen, same conversation. And so it's not that men and women have to cook two different meals for, you're really cooking the same thing and bringing in very similar food sources, to support the body.
Very
But
cool.
again, it's just that men can often get away with eating more of the crappy food if their testosterone's vibrant and vigor, because it helps them just to burn that body fat easier. You don't store it as body fat. You just get that lean muscle mass, especially if you're exercising. But
Yeah, and
doesn't necessarily
I
make you
think
healthier.
right. That's what I was just gonna say. And what I've learned from that is even if you've got the physique to show that, and you're doing that because you're able to manage what you're looking at on the outside, there's still gonna be a point where you're gonna start paying for those decisions later on with your health, right? So
Yeah, and it's gut issues, it's inflammation, it's joint pain, it's poor sleep even, right? So there's so many of these little symptoms that men have, and they're not associating it with the fact of, well, it's because of what I ate today, right? That what I
yeah,
ate for
I think
lunch or didn't eat for lunch affected how I slept last night. Yeah.
yeah, I think for me especially, and I'm sure I'm speaking for many people at the same time. There's, I don't remember a time in my life until more recently where I started to really realize that. Like I used to just think that food never had that engagement. Food was just, well, that's what's being served, that's what I'm going to eat, and this is what I like, and this is how it tastes because I like it, and that's what I'm going to eat. And there was no consideration for anything else. So it's really insightful the way that you brought that all together because it's getting into my head for sure, and I'm sure lots of people who are listening to start really changing our mindset as to each step we take is going to impact the future, right? And I think especially from the business side of it, it works the same way. The stuff that you're putting in and working on is the stuff that you'll start to get results in, and the stuff that you're leaving won't. And you keep letting those weaker things creep in, you just lose those results like instantly. You just get these little. It's like the same thing with the weed in the garden, right? Like we've heard
Yeah.
that analogy forever. They can grow really really well, but it starts to impact all the other flowers and all the other things that are starting to grow. So
Yeah,
gotta
I love
watch
that.
those weeds. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the challenge for men too is they wait until they get the smackdown, right? Like until there's a major health crisis, a major ailment, until they really start thinking about putting their health first or choosing different foods, etc. And what I'm hoping that I'm getting across today is prevention is essential for men, because I just hear it from so many of my female clients that women are ready to go by the time they're in their 60s, 65. They're getting this new leash on life, and that your husbands are now fatigued. They have no sex drive. They just want to sit in front of the TV. They're crotchety old men, and frankly, what I often share with them is that it's likely because their husband's testosterone tank is completely empty. And so women have spent many years typically taking care of their health, whereas men have been more focused on really building their businesses until once they've retired, now men finally have a chance to think about those things. But then sometimes I don't want to say too late because we always have the power to change things, but they're feeling their worst, by
Yeah.
later on in life. So you start it now, like you said, so that you can have a beautiful full garden by the time you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, I know for myself and preaching with our team at AQuality and even with my kids, like to have a proactive lifestyle is going to pay off with everything you do. That growth mindset is really important. So I think you're definitely hitting on that well because it is funny how as men, like we tend to wait for that big life altering moment to occur. And then, it could be too late and you can't really make that shift the way that you wanted to because of the damage that was already done, or you're going to make it that much harder to overcome based on the level you've already allowed yourself to get to.
For sure. And the exciting thing is, and I said this at the beginning, like there's so much that we can do with the power of food, and it doesn't take a significant amount of tweaking and adjusting to really make a tremendous difference in how you feel, and again on what's happening on that cellular level. So it doesn't have to be this like life completely overhauling nutritional program, but it's making these slight differences and changes throughout the day that can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we're talking about our mindset shifts and getting into that psychology a little bit, maybe it's a good time to ask this question about And we touched on a little bit in intermittent fasting that by doing that, we're going to cut out those nighttime snacks. So I know for a lot of guys, like you've had your probably bigger dinner than you probably even needed to. And then an hour or two goes by, whether you put kids to sleep or you're just trying to find some time to relax. And our history from growing up is TV's on or movies on or listening to music or whatever you're doing, food becomes part of that. So that's a hard one to cut out, I think, for a lot of people. But why do we crave these snacks? And it's probably not that much different for women than men, but why do we crave the snacks at night when we're supposed to be like preparing our body to go to sleep? And it's clearly something we can and should be avoiding. Why do we crave it so much?
Okay, I'm going to set it up this way, Dave. So I believe there's three different reasons why we crave. We have physical cravings, we have mental and emotional cravings, and we have soulful cravings. Okay, so our physical cravings are the ones where we're craving certain foods because we didn't eat properly in the day. Okay, so maybe we didn't have enough of that protein at each meal, or maybe we didn't eat essential fats, which we haven't talked about yet, but so many men are deficient in good fats like our nuts, our seeds, avocado, olive oil, ground flax seeds, hemp seeds, all of these good fats. So sometimes when we have a deficiency in our macronutrients, that will cause us to crave, especially sugar, etc. Sometimes if we have a lot of stress in our life and we're not taking care of our adrenal glands, which help us handle stress, which is why maca can also be very helpful for men, and other things like ashwagandha, for example, as a supplement. But basically, if we if we have a lot of stress, our adrenal glands are a sodium dependent gland. So often we'll crave salty foods like chips, for example, to help us sort of deal and support our adrenal glands because maybe we didn't, take in enough sea salt in our day. Or again, because our adrenals are fatigued and we're not taking some of these superfood adaptogens into our body. So there's very physical reasons why we can crave. And of course, again, if your blood sugars are unstable, so if you're fueling on caffeine in the morning, you're having a high carbohydrate lunch with like a sandwich or pizza or breads, pastas, that'll make you crash. That'll make you crave in the afternoon some more sugar, caffeine, or a pop. And then you have a big heavy dinner at night, and then your blood sugars have dropped again, then you're going to crave something at night. So having the instability of blood sugars throughout the day will definitely cause those cravings at night. So all of those physical cravings can be taken care of by working with a nutritional consultant like myself who can help you adjust and make sure you've got your perfect fuel mix in the day so you're satisfied, you're satiated, and you're free of craving.
Again, that proactive again, right?
Proactive.
Like prepare yourself to avoid those cravings.
Yeah, because listen, every time you eat, you should have long-lasting physical energy. Your mental acuity should be sharp. You should be emotionally stable, and you should feel satisfied, satiated, free of craving. And if you're missing that, then what that means is that you're not eating your perfect fuel mix. So just knowing what that is when working with somebody like myself can really just help take the guesswork out and make nutritional changes really easy. But then we go into the emotional mental field and why we crave things emotionally. So it's really interesting that every food we crave releases neurotransmitters in the brain. Our neurotransmitters are our feel-good hormones. So whatever we're not dealing with in our day is often expressed through food in the nighttime. So whatever we repress emotionally, we express somewhere else. So whether we're expressing it with drugs, with alcohol, with food, sex, whatever it might be. But sometimes we go into certain foods to make us feel better about a situation that we're not dealing with. So most commonly, chips is often craved at night emotionally when there's too much stress and anxiety or a lot of worry that you're sort of gnawing on your worries. So that's common where we'll eat chips. Some people who are dealing with more depression will go into things like pastries, carbohydrates, muffins, that kind of thing, cookies. Men who typically crave chocolate, that's not as common. It's more women that crave chocolate, but oftentimes there's issues within the relationship. So whether that be a business relationship or your relationship with your partner, chocolate will often be craved. And so there's just very different reasons why we crave what we do. But ultimately, when you're eating those foods, you really want to get into understanding what is this even about, right? Like, am I craving this because, maybe I didn't eat enough fats today? Or am I craving this because there was an issue at work that I never dealt with? Or there's a fight that I had with my wife that I never really communicated effectively with? Or I'm just really stressed because my kids are driving me nuts, whatever it might be. But it's helping, it's really, and when I do my work with my clients, was we're really delving into the very specific food, why they're eating it, but then also often how we're eating it. So often a man will eat a bag of chips and kind of look down and realize, shit, man, that bag of chips, it's gone. Like I didn't even realize I just ate it.
Yeah, that bag of chips has no chance against me.
Yeah. And so sometimes there's just this unconscious eating. So we're not even aware of why we even ate the chips so ravenously. We're not even present to the eating experience. So a lot of times when I'm working with men, I'm just helping them to slow down their eating response, to actually like not just open the bag and eat it standing up, but like sit, pour it in a bowl, and just be conscious and present while they're actually eating. And it just helps to slow down that eating experience. It helps to often not eat as much as you typically would if you were completely eating in the stress response. But it also gives a chance for reflection, because so often we miss out on the reflection piece, right? We eat the bag of chips and we feel really guilty, or like, shit, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I'll just burn it off in the gym tomorrow. But it's really more about sitting into there and be like, well, what was that just about? Like, why did I do that? So a lot of my eating psychology work is just helping men get really clear on what they're not resolving in their life that's making them go to the food to
Yeah, that's
ultimately.
super cool. I'm gonna have to book a session because there's moments where I'll be in that bag of chips and maybe only like at the serving portion that they've allotted for on this bag, where I already feel full. I don't even need them. I don't even want them. But I end up sitting there knowing that I don't even feel like eating, and I'll eat the whole bag.
Yeah.
It's like, and you definitely sit there wondering after, like, why did that just go down?
Yeah. So there was often a trigger that happened that, that just again needs to be looked at and resolved. And I do a great method. It's called the DeMartini method, which is a series of questions that helps you to equilibrate your mind and take you out of emotional states and bring you into more states of poise and balance, and just helping you see situations in a very different light, but very quickly. It's very easy processing by asking quality questions. But so that's one of the tools that I use to help somebody work through some of the emotional conflict they might be having. Soulfully, though, the third reason why we may crave, honestly, Dave, sometimes there's just foods that we just love. And we have soulful pleasure when we eat those foods. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am all about teaching people to eat with joy and love and presence and pleasure. And so sometimes you just want the bag of chips, as an example for you, and you may just love those chips, but those are the times when you're eating them with pleasure and joy, and you're really taking time to savor them and, just love on the experience of eating whatever that food is. But there's no guilt about it. There's no shame about it. There's no emotion attached to it. It's just that once in a while, I'm just going to enjoy the chips because I love them.
Right.
So we have to decipher between the three cravings, and that's really, really important. But there's a reason why we go into these foods. But so often, if it's an emotional issue, I just want to stress here, emotional eating is so common. Again, it's another collective issue, but a silent struggle, whether it be with men or women. And even sometimes our partners don't even realize that we're emotionally eating. So that's really important. So just know that anytime you're eating for an emotional purpose, it's a doorway. It's an opportunity to explore, to grow, to change mindset, to do the inner work that really ultimately needs to be done.
What's your soulful? What's your vice? What do you do?
Oh, soulful pleasure, 90% dark chocolate, 1 or 2 squares a night. It's like my bliss, my enjoyment, my slow down, my love it. It's just my thing. And no guilt, no shame. You can take anything out of my diet, really, but you won't touch those 2 squares of chocolate. It's not going to happen.
So you've got the discipline where one, you're eating 90% dark chocolate, which is better for you than any milk chocolates, right? And you've already said you limit yourself to 2 pieces, right? I still have a whole bag to work through on my chips. So.
But it's not even a limitation or a restriction. It's because I'm truly savoring each square. So it's just pure satisfaction when I have that. Knowing that if I ate like more than that, I would feel sick, but I wouldn't even be able to sleep because of the caffeine and the chocolate, right?
Gotcha.
So I eat those foods because they make me feel good, but they're also providing this soulful pleasure. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of feeling good and pleasure, as we start to wind down here, Another question that we have here that I'm sure men have been waiting around, that got to stay around for this long, are curious about this one. Is there, let me see how I wrote this one down here. Are there any foods that are best for us to cook for our wives, girlfriends, or our boyfriends, or husbands, that will put them in the mood for love? So, you know, every man's probably wondering, is like, is there truth to the oysters? Is there truth about like what you can feed someone to entice or enhance or increase somebody's, desires to even have sex? Like, what are we at with food, and how can we control that?
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, listen, absolutely. There's certain foods that do help to promote relaxation. There's certain foods that are considered aphrodisiacs. I'm going to go back to maca again, because maca is one of those. So when you're making your smoothie, you're going to offer your partner a smoothie as well that's going to have maybe 2 tablespoons of maca in hers. But here's the thing: when you're trying to get create the mood or create intimacy with your partner, the most important thing to understand for a man to understand her woman is that women need to be relaxed in order to receive, and that means receive you, right? And so often we have to take a look at our partner's stress response, and so really understanding if your partner has cortisol issues, adrenal fatigue, etc. She wants the maca, she needs the adaptogenic herbs like the ashwagandha, for example, and so does a man. So just watching the stress levels and how we're being resilient and adapting to our stress is so important. Medicinal mushrooms are another one where you can add 1 or 2 teaspoons into your smoothie or into a coffee. So if you're preparing a meal, though, to go back to your question, absolutely, like having a meal where there's like, if she's oysters, or just oysters are very high in zinc, which helps to elevate testosterone, which will put both of you into the mood, or seafood in general, or any of those higher zinc protein foods that I talked about. Even for women, a lot of women restrict their red meats, but having like a grass-fed beef or a lean bison or some lamb that has iron and B12, which are energy promoting, blood boosting, and then the zinc, which is testosterone boosting, those really help a woman and a man in terms of intimacy. So with some cruciferous vegetables that are really good as well. So having a meal like that could work really, really well. And frankly, the other thing that we didn't really talk about, but one of the things that I really focus on too in my practice, is the power of food, but also the power of plant medicine. And using essential oils can be a wonderful way to really enhance libido for both men and women. So diffusing next to your bedside with some ylang ylang or clary sage, for both men and women, really help with libido, sex drive. And so that's really something you could do. A woman can also, so a man, you can get these from me, I'll help you out, but you can buy your wife or your partner a bottle of jasmine, and rolling jasmine on her back, on her spine, or she can roll it on her abdomen, and that absolutely increases libido. So there's little tricks like that that we can use to really stimulate sex drive for both men and women. But please just remember that a woman must relax and feel like she can open up to receive, to be intimate. That's really important. So helping her resolve her stresses, delegating stuff so not so much falls on her, and both of you taking care of your adrenal glands are really key.
Cool. Can you just touch for a quick second here on the essential oils? I think there's probably a lot of men who are not probably aware that this is even an option, as to how would we go find them, how do they work, and how do you know what is diffusing versus, like, are they supposed to be just rubbed on us, or are they edible? Like, how does that work?
Great. So if you go to my website, amybondar.com, under aromatherapy, you'll go down, you'll see doTERRA, and you'll get onto my doTERRA website there that has lots of videos about why essential oils and the importance of them and the quality of them. But really quickly, essential oils, they are plant medicine. And so they're molecules that are extracted from different parts of the plant, whether it be a flower, a stem, the bark, the resin of a tree, whatever that might be. And those molecules have chemistry, and the chemistry impacts our physical body. And so first of all, there's lots of essential oils on the market that are fairly crappy, just like supplements. So you have to know what quality supplements and oils you want to take. And so that's why I use doTERRA. Highly tested, very, very high quality product, leading leading essential oils in the world, actually. So, and that's not an exaggeration. But basically, we can take those internally. There's certain oils we can add to our water that help to detoxify, boost our antioxidants, etc. We can use oils topically, so just like massaging some essential oils on your body, on the soles of your feet, which helps to increase and oxygenate the blood in 30 seconds. And then we can also use some of the oils aromatically, like diffusing. So I'm actually going to be teaching an essential oil class via Zoom later this month, so stay tuned for that. I'll set a date. But I just want men to know that everything from baldness to erectile dysfunction to weight issues to detoxification to prostate issues, semen production, semen count. I mean, there is an oil for everything. And even adding essential oils to your shaving cream, to your, whatever you moisturize your skin with, all these sorts of things can really help man's health.
Wow, that's cool. I did not know that it went that far. So.
Yeah, there's a whole thing called Broterra. It's like brothers for doTERRA. But it's true, like real men use essential oils. Real men use essential oils.
So when we speak about overall health, like for myself, I'm pretty healthy. I work out often. I'm really restricted on what I eat, more for health-wise from past stomach issues and gut issues. But I think all of us men probably, in that situation, we may still have this one area where women may not realize this, but we can be just as fickle at times of being, body shamed by other people, or, that issue of feeling like you're supposed to look a certain way. I don't think it's actually as different as, women think it is for men. Like we definitely go through the same thing, and we're not necessarily comfortable if we're not feeling the way that we feel we're supposed to be. So for that, if you're in that situation where you feel like you're doing everything right, like you're eating properly, you're eating the right foods, and you work out, and you still have these problem areas, like maybe you're having trouble getting rid of that belly, or maybe, for me, I feel like because of my chip issue, I call them chip pockets. I don't even call them love handles anymore. They are my chip pockets. I actually know what lives in there. It's my chip. But is there something that we're doing wrong, or is that actually normal, that like even if you're doing something and you're actually healthy and your body's in a good place, and you're low on inflammation and things are actually going really well for you, where your physical body might still show fat somewhere where you wouldn't expect it to still be hanging around? Is that right? Is that okay, or is there something we're missing?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few answers to this. First of all, I would say, number one, Dave, you even mentioned it, right? Men don't often seek out help, right? So having a consultation with somebody like myself to just do a little tweaking and adjusting to see if that makes a difference can really play a big role in shape shifting the body. Number two, so often men don't change their workouts, right? And often will focus mostly on weight training or on cardio. But what we know, especially for testosterone, is that you need both. You need resistance training and cardio to have the greatest impact on your body. But if you're doing the same thing all the time and you're not switching that up, then go seek a personal trainer and get some, some tweaks there so you can do some boosting. Then we also just want to look at the physical body. And this is something I do in my initial intakes, is that I have a questionnaire. It's called an advanced NutriBody analysis. And it helps us to determine your nutrient levels, your organ health, your hormonal health, your whole digestive health. Sometimes we have some stuff going on in the biochemistry that needs to be taken care of. Most commonly, it's digestive issues. So either hidden food sensitivities or lack of digestive enzymes that are impacting your ability to digest and break down food. Sometimes it's liver detoxification that's needed, but so many people, especially men, don't detox, and sometimes we hold on to fat cells. Toxins are where our fat cells are stored, so releasing toxicity helps us to shape shift the body. So there's ultimately some things within that biochemistry that need to be taken care of. And especially for men, you've lived, let's say you're in your 40s or 50s, 60s, you've lived these decades, but you haven't necessarily taken care of some of your major elimination pathways. So you just might be at that stage where you just need to do a little bit of intervention to then allow your body to shape shift or get to that next level. But I think that, if you're feeling well overall, Dave, and life's pretty good, can you just love your chip handles? And if you're not okay with that and you can't surrender and just love those chip handles, then there's work to be done. But if you can just lean in and love the body where it's at as it is, then leave it alone and don't fight the process, right? But I think that there's always things that we can do to shift the body and to take it to the next level. And like I say, sometimes it's as simple as adding some stuff to support testosterone for a man. Maybe it's the adding of the adaptogens. Maybe it's really increasing the veg and cutting out some of the alcohol, right? All of those things make that difference. And maybe it's tweaking the exercise and looking at the unresolved emotional issues that haven't been taken care of. All of those things start to show up in the body and on the body, right? And I think that's too why women, you know, often are the ones that do a lot of the work in regards to taking care of their health, because their stuff shows up on the body a lot more than often men does, but eventually for men it catches up to you.
And I guess that almost brings us to one of our last questions. Like, can we be overweight? Because I think BMI index is all crap, to be honest. Like, I think the way they figured that out, I even went to a doctor like a year ago and I was apparently obese, and I'm definitely not, and I don't feel that way. So they even said, you know, it's based on older things and based on how you measure around your hips or whatever it was. So I'm not so worried about that kind of stuff, but that's the pressures that you end up under, where you could actually be doing everything right and get that type of response from the medical field. It's frustrating. But is there a point where you can like have a certain, whether it's body fat or, you know, whether it's overweight or a certain body fat, where you're absolutely healthy? Like, I even look at sports athletes, and you know, you think of in baseball, even you think of the different sizes of different athletes, and you know, their flexibility and their strength and what they're able to do is phenomenal, but they all look in totally different shapes and sizes. So is there a point where body fat's actually okay to have, and we don't need to be this lean cut thing that, you know, the magazines are all telling us we should be?
Right. Well, listen, again, and as I say to all of my women clients, is that those photos, I mean, the amount of people that look that way in our world, it's minimal. The percentage is so small, and we strive to have that perfect body. But like I say, your life has to be dedicated to the gym and calorie restriction, which is really not fun. So, you know, listen, it depends on how much body fat you're talking about. Can you have some body fat and be healthy? Absolutely, you can, you know, 100%. But if you are sitting in your body right now as you're listening to this, you have to ask, how is my energy? Am I satisfied? Am I satiated? How's my mental performance? How's my emotional balance? Do I have aches and pains? Do I have anything going on in my gut? So just, you got to do your own body scan to be like, how am I feeling? And if you're feeling awesome, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing until something needs to shift. But if you're scanning your body and you know that there's some nagging things that you've probably been ignoring, you know, that's your body wisdom getting you to wake up, knock on the door, and have you say, hey, it's time to get a little intervention in and do some changing, put your health a little bit higher on the values, and do some work. And, you know, it doesn't take a lot. I've said this now the third time, right? It's slight eliminations, additions, adjustments can make the world of difference in how you feel. And frankly, if you commit to something, here's the science. It takes 120 days for your blood cells to die and rebirth into stronger, healthier ones. So no matter what you try, 4 months, give it a go and see how you can get a reversal of healthy cells and see how different you'll feel from now to 4 months. It doesn't mean you're not going to notice improvements and changes before that 4 months, but 120 days is what your cells will need to shift, to change, rebirth into stronger, healthier ones. And then imagine what you'd be like in that second
timeline.
Okay. And then imagine that you'd be like in that second 8-month cycle, right? That second 120-day cycle. So now you're at 8 months. Imagine what you'd be like in the third. So, you know, give yourself some time to shift the body, but that's important. Can't try something for 3 weeks and see if it works or not. You need time.
Yeah, that's amazing when you put that. It made me think. I remember reading and listening. Someone had an analogy once about, you know, working out, where you decide like, okay, you know, I need to go and I need to start getting in shape, and I need to wake up by tomorrow and be, you know, ready to be fit. You can't go to the gym and work out for 16 hours straight and wake up the next morning and be in good shape. You need to put in like half an hour every day for months and months and months to end up at that point where then you can all of a sudden shift that and regulate that, where now maybe I only need to work out 2 or 3 times a week to maintain what I've put all that hard work and time into. And it's a lot in life like it is with, business, life, and now I'm seeing that again with the foods we're choosing and our lifestyle of how we're trying to stay healthy. So that was really cool, Amy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, any other questions you have for me?
I think we're good. I'd like to thank you for your time. That was a ton of information for myself personally, and I'm sure if it's hit me the way it has for me, there's going to be many people that are going to benefit from this. And I'm sure many people can see I would still have plenty to learn from coming and sitting down with you and really going into my real personal details about what I'd want to work on. See if I do want to get rid of those chip pockets. Maybe a step might be in order, or if I'm just happy living with chip pockets. Because
right?
I know the chips, for whether it's emotional or soulful or physical, they are part of what I like to do. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, listen, and sometimes the conversation is just about not fighting it, right? It's just like relaxing in and giving yourself permission to just enjoy what you want to enjoy without creating the emotional turmoil. And sometimes that's the soulful work that needs to be done, is just being okay with where you're at. And sometimes it's just giving the permission to do that. But yeah, if any of our listeners want to come and do a consult, highly recommend checking out my website, amybondar.com. All my contact information is there. Benefits are, coming to the end of the year, right? So this is a great time of year for men, for you to take a look at your benefits, your insurance packages, just to see if nutritional consulting or counseling is covered in your insurance policies, because this is a great time to use those up, or start them in January if they've already been used up. And do stay tuned. Coming December 6th, I do have an emotional eating session with a psychologist. This is our second time running it, so that's December 6th. You'll see that in my newsletter. And then I will be doing a Power of Essential Oil class as well via Zoom. So again, just some different things that men typically wouldn't show up to, but here is the invitation. And men, I just want to leave it on this. I want you to know that you're not alone in whatever food struggle, health challenge you may have. And currently what I'm attracting in my business and in my practice is highly successful men who are doing their work, who are on the pursuit of self-growth and transformation, and want to empower all the areas of their life, including their health area. And I'm working with quite a few men who struggle with emotional eating. And it's not uncommon. And I just want to put that out there, because you're not alone if that's your struggle. You're not alone if you're dealing with body image challenges, and you're certainly not alone if you've got some health challenges that can be corrected with some nutritional changes. So don't be shy, don't be scared. It's testosterone boosting and promoting to come and seek support so that you can jump to the next level of your own growth in all the areas of your life. So I wish you all well, and eat for wellness. And really remember, at the root of everything for you is your testosterone, your vigor, your energy, your stamina, your health. It's all dependent on that. And there's so much that we can do to make sure that that stays stoked and constantly being fueled with power food.
Cool. Thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you, Dave. And if you're looking for a great plumber, by the way, AQuality Plumbing, top notch, best quality service. I highly recommend them for all of your home plumbing needs and office needs as well. And how can people reach you, Dave?
They can always call our office, 403-205-2782, or all the contacts are online, AQualityPlumber.com. But more importantly to me for this one, I hope that anything I was able to give by asking the questions that I put together for Amy, that there's other men who can get help, or possibly even women who live with men who can better understand what we might be going through and ask some questions, and maybe get the more vulnerable side out of who we are and what we deal with, which I think can help a lot of people. So I think that I know for myself, when I wake up every day, my goal is to help people. And when this opportunity came forward for me to chat with Amy and figure out all these things that I thought were pertinent for men to find out about and were possibly too afraid, too shy, or too proud to ask, what a great opportunity to get answers like this from Amy, just straight to the point, and really let us know what's important.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, Dave, and thanks for your questions. They're perfect. I love them, awesome. And I think all questions that all of our men need to hear.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.